start to do whatever it is needs to be done.
All set.
That would be great. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to signify your presence. Sharon,
Here.
Christine,
Here.
George,
Here.
Alex,
Here.
Jennifer,
Here.
and Austin is here, and we are joined by our two good colleagues from Colliers. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from September 22nd.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, corrections to the minutes?
No.
Okay, how about we just approve these minutes by unanimous consent? Is there an objection? Okay, minutes are approved. Next item is a construction update. Trey?
Yep. Sharon, I just sent you a request to share. Thank you. Everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the wrong one. Interesting. Apologize. You guys can see the cover page, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So good evening, everyone. So construction update. So interior demo is still ongoing, and it's mainly in the basement area. As you can see, this is the mechanical room. I did show you this picture last week, and I kind of wanted to show you just kind of a overall progress exterior wise while we're talking through this. So this is on the right. This was when they were ripping down the 1990s edition. And you could see just the debris field and everything in the rear of the building. Same thing here. We have the interior where they're separating the building. But what has totally changed is the exterior of the building from the last month. All of that debris has been cleaned up to the point now where we are beginning our footings and foundation walls for the new addition. You can see cuts from the excavation here, as well as forms being placed and layouts. The grid lines have been established. So very, very cool part of construction for me personally is seeing what all of this rests on. So another picture here on the right, as you can see, forms being placed and grid lines being established. You can also see the temp partition walls that they have put up to keep most of the weather from entering the building. You go a little further, as you can see in this picture on the right here, that whole debris field has been totally cleared. You can see the excavation cuts along the easement here, which stretches all the way into the rear to where they have made that storm basin retention area. Here is just a cut that you can see for a footing. So they do overcuts, and then they pour, and then they backfill to those. Next, this is kind of the same kind of overview of seeing that all of that debris totally gone. You can see all the excavators, the bobcats, and everyone establishing that grid lines. To the right here, we have the basement, which mainly is most of the demo is going on right now. They need to bring this down to a certain grade to allow them for the design to be actually functional. So that's more or less what's going on in the basement. We got bobcats and other machinery inside the building and pulling out dirt. So that's more or less that portion of the demo. So here you can see actual footings being formed with rebar as well as base plates. These are the structures that the structural steel will rest on. And then in the right here, you can see more in the background, and then all of these footings along the way with their base plates. So as you can see in these pictures, forms have been formed, rebar has been placed, and concrete has started to begin pouring. We have poured roughly, I don't want to say 120 yards more or less in the last week or so, with all third-party testing happening as well through Allied. So they're on site making sure that the concrete's to the structural strength that they need, as well as inspecting the rebar. I didn't have very many interior shots because I kind of showed all of that last month, and not much has changed other than that basement area. The big focus has been getting the foundations and footings this last couple 3 weeks since we've met. So that's more or less my construction update for all of you. I'd be happy to entertain any questions if anyone has any.
Trey, you used a term that I just want to know what it means. Sorry, Paul, before you come in. What is rebar?
Rebar is this bar you can see right here, Austin. So this is a gauge bar that they use in concrete to reinforce the concrete to give it a little more oomph, if you will. This bar comes in all different sizes, and that is the structural piece of the concrete footings.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Paul.
So to follow up, so it's the steel that they put in with the concrete to sort of make sure like super powerful then, right?
Yes, sir.
Is winter construction going to have any impact, or can you tell us what winter construction will look like?
Yeah, I mean, we live in New England, everyone knows. Construction will move forward. There are certain aspects of construction, we really can't do in the winter. I shouldn't say that. I said we can do things, but it's a little more detailed process. For example, like what you're seeing here with the footings, they would have to cover all of these footings each night and make sure that all of them are at a satisfactory temperature, which I believe is 45 degrees, in order for them to pour these. Same thing with excavation. Once we hit frost, there's ways to get around the frost, ground thaw heaters, for example. Most of the construction that will happen this winter, Paul, will be in the interior of the building, as well as erecting of the structural steel. So the structural steel, we don't need any of these winter conditions that I'm referring to. That's just more or less erecting of the steel. So that will be most of the exterior winter work, Paul. And then with some interior work as well going on.
Alex.
Thanks. So I had a similar question to Paul's, but I guess I just wanted to follow up and make sure I understand, because again, the construction piece is new for me. But so it sounds like, if there is any sort of winter construction that needs to happen, then Trey, does Colliers sort of like monitor that and keep an eye on? I just have memories of the 90s construction and the issues that we have with the atrium and things. So I just want to be particularly sensitive that somebody's watching, like, if temperatures are dropping and that means something needs to happen, that there's someone other than, the contractors who are sort of monitoring that. Is that Colliers that does that? Does that happen automatically?
Yeah, Alex. So part of our contracts, we do have construction rep services. So Brady and I are on site 4 days out of the week. So yes, to answer your question, and we're in communication with Fontaine about those issues daily, more or less. So yes, that would all be monitored through Colliers as well as Fontaine, and making sure that we are doing the appropriate steps. Another thing is masonry, for example, grouting, and when pointing up the existing building. We want to make sure we're getting all of that done prior to winter, because that is a scope more or less that could be affected by winter conditions. So yes, Alex, we're the boots on the ground, the clerk of the works, and we're looking over all of those situations that will come here in the next month or so.
Great. And then I have a follow-up if that's okay.
Go ahead,
So-
yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing that I was wondering again is I don't know like at what points we sort of come across things that are unexpected, right? The reasons we have these contingencies in there. So I don't know. I imagine it can happen at any time, but I guess I just want to sort of check in from time to time. Like, is there anything we're finding that was unexpected? Are we on schedule relative to like winter and the things that we're looking at, and just sort of a checking in around those sorts of things would be great.
Yeah, so through the demo process, we've discovered a few things. Nothing out of like nothing crazy. I'll give you an example. In the basement, we did run into a slab under a slab, for example, that when we were digging, we hit another slab. So it's just, you know, these are those things that we have contingencies for, to, you know, unforeseen conditions. And so that we're tracking some of these, as well as the contractor is putting together change orders. And we're fighting the battle to make sure that we're making sure that all of the scope is vetted within these change orders, and that, you know, we're getting a fair and reasonable deal when we do encounter these items. To be honest, it hasn't been as for how historic this building is and how drastic of a change all of this is to the building. We really haven't ran into too many crazy conditions, which is a good thing, I will say. So,
Okay. Paul, is your hand still up from the last
No,
time?
I
or are you
have
back
another
in?
question.
Sure.
Trey, do we have third-party people who sort of check the footings and stuff like that?
absolutely. So Colliers
And-
coordinates with Allied. Allied Testing is our third party, and they will test, for example, concrete. They'll inspect rebar. They will inspect masonry grout for structural. Yes, Paul. There, that's a.
So it's not just you
it's a-
looking at it, there's also a company that we hired that says, did it test out properly? Does it meet all the requirements that we have in the specs and all that in building code and stuff?
Correct, Paul. Yeah, and we receive those. Fontaine receives those reports, and yeah,
Great, thank you.
absolutely. That's actually a Massachusetts thing that we have to do. So,
Okay, any other questions about the construction update? And I want to just go back, Trey, to just ask Alex's question. At this point, we are on schedule?
yeah. So in our weekly OIC meetings, I bring this up every week. Fontaine feels pretty good about where they are standing right now. So, and I do as well. I think they're moving in the right direction. For example, these footings were supposed to happen Friday of last week in their baseline schedule for the ones that I'm showing right here, and they hit the mark. So they're hitting the marks on certain tasks, and we're following closely along with their schedule and making sure that there's no slippage.
You're a veteran of these meetings with the general contractor, the architects, and your own team. Could you just quickly tell us how are they going so far from your point of view?
Yeah, so we have weekly OAC meetings as owner, architect, and contractor meetings. George and Sharon sit on both of these. So they're going well. The beginning stages of a project, this is what happens. There's all this misinformation, and the contractor throws 100 RFIs. Now, RFI, for people who don't know, is a request for information. So they'll throw 100 RFIs at the architect, and the architect becomes a little overwhelmed and a little bogged down. Also, with all of that is the submittals that I've mentioned before, and the submittals are anything that goes into the project. Drawings for windows, drawings from all of their subcontractors, and all of that is also thrown onto the architect's plate to approve or review, and to say, okay, contractor, we like this, but you need to revise this portion of that submittal. I will say that the architect has stepped his game up in the last 2 weeks, but in the very initial part of that, they were a little behind in getting contractors the information that they were requesting. And again, like I mentioned, I think they've stepped their game up in the last 2 weeks,
Right.
and we're starting to, hit that more or less pace that we like to see of responses.
Great. Okay, any other questions about the construction update? Okay, I note that we have been joined by George Ryan. George, do you just want to let us know vocally that you can be heard?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. And I
Thank you,
can
George.
hear.
Thanks. Okay, Trey, let's now go to the review and approval of invoices.
All right, I'm actually going to turn this over to Brady. So Brady's going to present
Fabulous.
invoices.
Thank you, Trey. Good evening, everyone. All right, so let's jump into it. So since we last met, there have been 6 invoices that we have received this month and approved. So at the top there, you see Colliers Project Leaders. That's our September invoice in the amount of $19,253.75. Below that is Atlas. That's the abatement contractor. Their invoices in the amount of $25,812.20. Below that is the GC Fontaine, their pay up number 4 for the September month. That total is $1,932,728.02. The next 2 below that is FAA. That's the architect, 1 for their basic services. And then below that is their invoice for their consultants. $63,250, and below that is $1,956.90. And then the last one, the 6th one, is Slow Body Development. That's for November rent in the amount of $21,078.42. So grand total for September, we are looking at $2,064,079.29. Trey, you want to show them the breakdown of each invoice, please? All right, as mentioned, this is Colliers. The description of services is at the top there. So, anywhere from RFI submittal review. We have it all broken down there. The attendance of structural meetings, OAC meetings, and everything that we have done for the month of September. And again, that is in the amount of $19,253.75. Any questions on this one before we move on? Austin, if you're talking, you're muted.
I was. Could you just go back up so that the full list of the tasks, there you go, is just visible so people can just take a second to look at them. This invoice has been approved and paid?
Not paid, just approved by Bob. We don't approve our own invoices.
Yeah,
Austin.
great. I just, I saw the approval. Okay, any questions about this invoice? All right, oh, Alex.
I just have one potentially stupid question. On the invoice sheet that you had in the presentation, there's a thing that says number, which I assumed was an invoice number, but it doesn't match the invoice number on here. So what is that reference?
That is the invoice number, and I believe you are correct. So yeah, you're looking at the invoice number here, which is 1099553.
Right.
That does not match.
That's just something not being updated on the slide. That's
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's
I'm just making sure I understand. Okay, thanks.
No, that's a good catch. Sorry about that.
Any other questions about the invoice? Okay, let's go to the next one.
Okay, this is Atlas. Again, that's all the work related to abatement. So you got the breakdown, you got the project hygienist, senior project manager, you got their hours, you got their rates. And this is in the amount of $24,209.50, which is just about 50% of their total contract. So halfway through there.
And is that where it should be in terms of the scope of the work?
Correct. It is.
Okay, any questions about this invoice? Alex, do you have another question, or is that from the last time? Okay. Alex, what is the invoice number on this? We expect that you have memorized them all. Don't show her.
Well, no, I can't see it to it. It should be
No, we thought-
2672049, but I
we
can't see
thought-
it to
we
compare
thought You
it.
had them all memorized. All
I
right.
do, but I can't see it. You gotta.
This
show me.
one
You
matches. This one
nailed
matches.
it, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions about this invoice? All right, let's go to the next one, please.
Okay, yeah, so this is for Fontaine. This is their payout for the month of September. I think Trey did a good job breaking this down the last meeting, so I'm not sure if there's any specific questions, but again, this is just a breakdown of all the trades and their work completed for this September period. Trey, if you just scroll down, just kind of a breakdown of each line item there. But if there are any specific questions, again, this is in the amount of $1,932,720.02.
For those of us that are learning about some construction things, could you go back down just one more step there, right there? So what is the difference between home office mobilization and field offices? Home office mean down at Fontaine's headquarters?
You are correct, Austin. Yeah, so when
Okay.
they initially got awarded the contract, they're
Yep.
doing some work from their
Okay.
home office until they mobilize to their field office
Field
on site.
office, okay.
And as you can see, all of those have been billed out 100%. So that's the percentage column
Yep.
that you're seeing.
And again, in terms of the budget allocations and the time, are we on where we should be in terms of the amount that we are paying Fontaine?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, our initial, go ahead, Brady. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, we are.
Okay, questions about this invoice? All right, let's go to the next one.
Okay, the next two are for FAA, the architect. This one you're looking at here is for their sub-consultants. So you have on here the geotech engineer.
Mhm.
And that looks like, yeah, so this one's just for the geotech engineer, $1,956.90.
Any questions about this invoice? Okay, let's go to the next one.
So this is for Flying Gold Alexander Architects in the amount of $63,250 for their construction administration contract, which is, you're looking at there, it's 19% complete. Total contract, $1,150,000. So far, they have billed $218K.
And the $63,000 involves some of the work that Trey described earlier, dealing with RFIs and other things?
Correct. Yeah, that's the bulk of their time spent at the moment.
I will say, regards to this invoice particularly, this is on a payment like schedule. This
Mhm.
63,250 will always be Feingold's invoice. And that's just how the contract's written.
Okay. Questions about this invoice? And Trey, when they submit an invoice like this, do we see it broken down further? How much of it was for this and how much of it was for that?
Not in that aspect, no. Not for Feingold, no. For an architectural firm to do that, that would be very difficult for me to pull out of them. but I can see what I can do, Austin, if you would like.
Well,
further
I'm just
breakdown on this.
interested in what the industry's, what standard operating procedure is. So
Yeah,
you're
I
tell-
can request their hours per a month for this, but how their contract's written, this is their scheduled payment for each month through the duration of the construction.
And what you're telling me is that standard operating procedure. It is not standard operating procedure to see an invoice that says, this amount drawing, this amount meetings, this amount whatever.
Yeah, for like our services, for example, Austin's for Colliers, we're billing based on hours. So that's usually when you would see all of that provided backup. Regards to architects, how their contracts are written, that's not the same.
Right.
So they have a payment schedule, and like
Okay.
I said, their fee for this portion of the job is that 1.1.
Yep.
And they bill this fee. That's how they build out the duration of the project. So that's how that's worded and written.
Helpful. Other questions about this invoice? Alex?
No, that's a question as much as a comment kind of on what you're saying, Austin. I mean, it seems like if we have an agreed upon fee, then really what's helpful information for this committee is like you alluding to initially, it sounds like Feingold was sort of behind on what was needed, but now they're caught up. So I guess what's helpful for me is if all we're seeing as a regular invoice is that Feingold's delivering what they need to be delivering to keep the project on track. So I guess that's the piece for me that's helpful when approving an invoice is, yep, we're good. We have everything we need. Which I assume is the case.
Yeah, and like I said, out of the gate, I had doubts for a second, but they've really got on their horse, I will say. And the last one, unless there's any further questions, I'm sorry. The last one is just the Brady.
Yeah, this is just, excuse me, this is just the slow body development November monthly rent. And this is, again, a fixed fee. You'll see this every month, $21,078.42.
Austin, I think you're muted, sir.
What I'd like to do is to approve them in one batch unless anybody wants to pull any of them out. Okay, on the question of recommending approval payment of these invoices, Sharon? You're muted, Sharon.
Yes.
Christine? Christine, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. George?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Paul Bockelman?
So Austin, you made the motion, I'm guessing, and if it wasn't seconded, I'll second it, so I vote yes.
And George the second?
Or the
Yes.
second.
George Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Colliers.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you all.
thank you for the work you're doing. I will say, I'm sure we all feel this. I was at the site the other day, and it's wonderful to see something that has been so long and carefully planned turned into footings, E-bars, and cement. So it's just great. All right. I have no correspondence, no topics anticipated by the chair. And now is an opportunity for public comment. Any member of the public wish to make a comment, please raise your virtual hand. Okay, I see no public comment. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 10th. And between now and then, I wish you all a happy Halloween and a happy election day. And we'll look forward to seeing you all on the 10th.
Thank
We're
you all very
adjourned.
much.
Thank you.